countdown begins.
Fresh.
You're listening to the Plumbing Sales Coach, where we give companies the strategies and skills to create a massive customer following.
Fresh.
And now, your host, Chris. What's up and welcome to a live episode. We haven't done one of these in a long time. We've been doing these on podcast only, but welcome back. I'm your host, CF, Chris Fresh, the Plumbing Sales Coach, and today we are talking specifically about how to have an amazing 2021. How are we doing? Who's watching? Who's out there? It's been a long time. Frankie Lamelli, good to see you, brother, says live. What's up, Fresh? Been a while. 100. Been a while on this show. Now, Frankie's in the program, so we get to talk one-on-one from time to time, but it's great to see you guys on this platform right here in this arena where service explodes, where service experts take form, and where people take on this mantra of service over sales. Always be serving is what our tagline is, and we are about that. We're about this idea of going out and taking care of the customers. Today, we're going to talk about how to protect our 2021, how to make sure that we don't get off to the wrong start, how to make sure we get off to the right start, how to know if we're getting off to the right or wrong start, and where do we go, where do we grow, and how do we do this thing called business, called life. Now, look, if you're a plumber, if you're out in the field, if you're a technician, this is going to relate. If you're a CSR, this will relate. If you're an owner, this will relate. If you're an owner of any business in any industry, this will relate. In fact, if you're a human being, this is actually going to relate because it affects us in all areas of our life, personal and professionally, and in so many things. We just kind of blindly live. And so we're going to talk about that today. What's up, Angel Acevedo in the house? Good to see you all the way from the East Coast. Troy, my boy, all the way up. Now, this guy's got a plumbing company called Trojan Plumbing, which I'm a USC Trojans fan, so you got to love that. But the Trojans, we all know, are red and gold. I am not those color schemes. I am a blue color scheme. This guy's plumbing company is Trojan Plumbing, but blue. Hello, USC. You could learn a thing or two from this guy. All right, so we've got him on the show. Good to see you, as always, brother. And look, I think we've got some cool things coming up for your team. I think tomorrow or this next week, we're going to be doing a breakfast with those guys or for those guys. Can't wait to do that. Supporting local businesses with local businesses. It's all about the local businesses. All right. Today we're talking about 2021. Before we dive too much into that, some of these people that you're seeing popping up on the show right now are a part of a bigger network, a bigger community called the Service Experts Inner Circle. You can be a part of that. If you want to be someone who's about this life, about that service expert's life, you want to be a service expert. You're someone who serves your community. You're someone who serves your company. You're someone who serves your customer. Well, then you should sign up and be a part of this thing. All you got to do is jump onto our website, www.theplumbingsalescoach.com, get some information, fill out the form. We'll reach out to you and let you know how you can be a part of it. We're here to help you generate more revenue for your business, profitable revenue, healthy revenue, revenue that will give you your life back. Not because money's everything, but it is the oxygen to your business. Now, today we're going to talk about how not only to generate more revenue, but more specifically, how to be focused on the right things. Johnny Gibson, good to see you. Jody Enright. Now, those are two people who have been around, at least my brand, for a very long time. Johnny Gibson has been probably from almost day one, if that's right, Johnny. Johnny Michelle own a plumbing company in the Missouri area. And Jody and Larry own Skyboss and Option One Plumbing out on the West Coast, representing the big CA, California on lockdown. I think you guys are on lockdown. How's that going for you guys? Let us know. So that's the one cool thing about what I do is I get to talk to so many people from all over the country, all over the world, people in Australia, people in Canada, different clients that we have, and just hearing how they're navigating 2020 and how that went for them, and all of the worries when we were in 2019 and 2020 crept upon us, all of the worries when the news broke, all of the hope and all of the stress and all of the emotion that we felt this year. I lived a lot of that with some of you guys. And, you know, I will say this, a lot of the fears didn't play out. They play out maybe in the media and they play out maybe in society as our thoughts kind of, run rampant, but they haven't really played out all the way as we have thought. At least some of the discussions, people worried about going out of business, but plumbing has thrived. Plumbing has been an industry that has thrived through this, and that's partly because plumbing is a necessity. Plumbing is something that is inside the home and is required for the health of the home even, and more importantly, the health of the people that are in that home. And so there's so much that, and I hope you caught what I said, the health of the home, right, as it relates to the plumbing leaking and damaging other things, and the plumbing system failing over time, and then the health of the people in the home, and the water that they're consuming, or the fact that the waste can leave the home in a manner that matters. Whack with the shutdown, he says, straight whack. I don't blame you there. I don't blame you there. I've even been to California not that long ago, and I saw it was definitely a different situation than what I experienced here in Indiana. So let's talk about 2021 and how we can keep these circumstances, a thing like COVID, a thing like COVID-19, a pandemic that kind of catches us out of nowhere, whether you believe in the science of it or you don't, or what I don't want to get into all that. Here's what does matter. It affected things. Here's what does matter. It was a part of reality in our life. And so we can't allow those things to derail us. We can't allow those things to take us off track. We can't allow those things to affect us. We just have to know where we're going so that as these things get on our way, as these things cross our path and get in our way, these obstacles of life, if you will, these mountains, if you will, we know how to climb them. We know how to get over them. We know how to get by them. We expect them, but we know where we're going. And so we're able to continue on. Here's the first part of the whole deal. If you want to be successful in 2021, if you want to be successful any year, and I'm not a big fan of New Year's resolutions. I just understand that that's where the world's at right now. And so we're going to talk about it. But honestly, these are things that we should be doing every single day. These are things that we should be focused on every single mode of our life. We don't need an event. We don't need a circumstance to get us right, to get us motivated. But that's the way that we operate. That's just how it works. I'm included. I'd love to sit here and tell you all that I've got it all figured out and I'm perfect, but I'm not. And I'm just as emotionally and just as living in this world like everyone else. And I'm affected by these things. And so I learned from that. And so I want to share that with you. But number one, you've got to have a clear goal. You've got to set a clear goal, a clear goal. There's some training I'm going through actually with my own advisor, somebody in my life, my mentor that speaks into my life, that helps me with business and in personal life. And this is something he's identified that he calls the WIG, I think is what he calls it, but the wildly, what is it? It's the wild, hopefully he's not watching. Hopefully he's not watching. Anyways, it's this idea of a clear, big goal, a big, clear goal, huge goal, something that's clear though. For example, you can't set a goal like, I want to grow my plumbing business, or I want a better marriage, or I want a better, something generic and vague. You got to get specific with it. Like I want to double the size of my company. I want to increase I want to increase my trucks times 2. I want to increase my revenue times 2. If you're $1 million company, you can say, I want to be a $2 million company. If you have 5 trucks on the road, you say, I want to get to 10 trucks on the road. Now, hopefully when you sit down and you set this goal, you think it through, you don't just randomly come up with it, and you're not doing it alone. Remember, I have an advisor. I just said I have a mentor in my life that's helping me with this. My team is going to be a part of this. You got to create vision for your team, but they got to be a part of it. So as you're thinking about this, what's your goal? For you salespeople out there, for you technicians out there, for those people out there that maybe don't own a company, this relates to your family. What's your goal? Is your goal to buy the biggest house and to work the next year and sacrifice all the time with your family to get that biggest house? Maybe that's a goal for you. But you need to know that, because if all of a sudden you're never home and your wife's goal was for you to be home more and your goal was to have a bigger home, you see how that could all of a sudden become a conflict of interest. And if your goal is to make a ton of money for your company at all costs, no matter what, but your employees' goals are to have maybe a better paycheck, but also to have some time left at the end of the week to spend with their family, well, you're going to have a conflict of interest. And so you got to have clear goals that people can understand and decide whether or not they want to be a part of that. Clear goals. Where are you at right now and where do you want to be? Because this is important before you can start mapping out the next steps. And I'm going to tell you right now, the order of steps that you map out matters. The way that you get there matters. So many times we get lost in life. We get stuck in the weeds. Who feels like they got stuck in the weeds at some point this last year? Tune-up time, he says. Thanks, Chris. We have a lot of rebellious businesses in my area, so it hasn't been too bad. She's talking about Open Cali and the fact that they're shut down. Those are a couple of the rebellious owners right there, speaking from a couple of the rebellious owners. I'm not saying I disagree or agree. I'm just saying things happen. Things out of our circumstances happen, and we got to be prepared for that by knowing where we're going. And the only way we know where we're going is having a clear goal. Look, in life, it's just as important to know where you're going as the journey of going there, but it's also just as equally important the journey itself. And so many times we get so focused on the goal, but we never actually consider the fact that maybe other people don't have that same goal. And this is where we see people workaholics, they get lost, maybe laziness. Other things can creep in these areas. If the goal isn't clear, then how do you know where you're going? And if you don't know where you're going, how can everyone follow you? Could be a leader of the home, could be a leader of the business. Could be a father, a mother, grandmother, grandfather, could be anybody. Could be an older brother. Could be an older sister. It could be anybody. If you have influence, you got to have goals. You got to know where you're going. People can't follow you if they don't know where you're going. People can't follow you if they don't know where you're going. It's just the reality. And your customers have this problem in the home when you're talking about different options and you're selling things. I can relate this to 1,000 different things. I say option one is so important because option one is the option that allows them to deal with the reason that they called you out. And therefore, you got to give them something that allows them to say yes to what they called you out for. It then gives you a platform to build on that if there's a problem with the age of the home and maybe all the toilets should be replaced and that should be considered. It gives you a platform to speak on. But if they don't understand why you're talking about replacing all the toilets, if they don't know why you're going there with this conversation, they can't mentally stay with you. They can't make the purchase. People need to know where you're going. So before all that, I'll say, hey, how old is this toilet? Well, the toilet's 25 years old. Well, are the other toilets this old? Now that you mentioned that, I haven't thought about that, but yeah, they are. Have you had any problems? Well, I haven't had any problems with them. Well, you might hear real soon since this one's starting to fail. Now they know where I'm going with the conversation. You ever been in that conversation with someone and they just keep somebody, you're like, well, yeah, you do it on the show sometimes. But if you ever been in that conversation with someone and they just keep talking, you don't even know where they're going with the conversation? And we've all been there. It was like 20 minutes in, you're like, so wait, I thought we were talking about pancakes. Now you're at the tire shop. I'm trying to keep up with this story. What? Like we've all been in that conversation. People need to know where you're going. They can't follow you. Number two. Oh, this one's crucial. Number two. This is so important. You got to work. You got to visualize the goal. And you got to work your way backwards to where you are now. You got to visualize. See, some people will go, okay, I want to make $1 million. And then they start with, I have $10,000 and like, okay, how am I going to make 15,000? No, you got to visualize what it's like to make the million. How are you making it? What's going on right there? Or you're a plumbing business. Okay. So you're going to make $1 million. Well, what's that look like? How many trucks do you have? Is your truck wrapped or your shop wrapped? Do you have uniforms on? What's that look like? Visualize it and work it backwards. What's it going to take to get all those things? What are the steps necessary? And then prioritize them. And then you start setting these miniature goals, right? That you can then know they're going to get you there because you worked yourself backwards. You say, okay, it's like double checking your work in math. It's like going and reverse engineering the math. You reverse engineer the goal. And from there you can say, okay, I want to be on an island with a boat and a mansion. Okay, well, that's going to take a boat. What am I doing while I'm there? Well, I'm talking on the phone a lot and I'm running some plumbing business. I've got 30 locations. Somehow, okay, well, now I got to start working myself. Well, shoot, right now all I have is I live in a trailer and I've got my pickup truck. Okay, that's probably not a goal for next year. We got to set realistic goals. But if it's achievable and we can see ourselves getting there, how much more likely are we to? And I'm not saying set small goals. I'm just saying set big, clear, realistic goals that you can visualize, that you can work back and see yourself getting to. Mindset's everything. If you believe you can, you will. If you believe you can't, you won't. We've all heard that before. We'll hear it again. We'll hear it 1,000 more times over because it's true. Mindset's everything. Mindset is literally the catalyst to whether or not someone sees the positive or sees the negative. You know, I experienced this in my own personal life. I have personal experiences with my children. I have personal experiences with coworkers. I have personal experiences with other humans in life. And when I encounter them, my children, my friends, my coworkers, my employees, my whoever, when I encounter them, there's a pre-logged like history with them that causes me to walk into these environments looking at it from a certain angle. I go into it with a certain mindset, if you will. And it's going to definitely impact the way that plays out. I can assure you of that from both sides, from both parties. It will absolutely impact. Two people viewing each other positively can have a conversation about the same topic and end up in a totally different place than two people who view each other negatively talking about the same thing, even maybe having the same goals, maybe even having the same like-mindedness, but because they can't see past their own disdain for each other or their own irritation with each other, it will cause them to end up in a place they don't want to be. They never really visualized, they never really realized because they didn't know where they were going, because they went into it with the wrong mindset and they ended up somewhere they didn't want to be, a conflict of interest. Now, look, if you're someone who agrees with this, you're someone who's like, man, I watch the show, I love the podcast, I'm all about this stuff. You're a part of what we call the Fresh Force. The Fresh Force is this really cool thing that you're a part of, almost like Star Wars. Like, this is the Force. Is the Force with you? It's the serving force. It's in that moment. Are you going to serve or are you going to sell? You going to take care of the people or are you going to take advantage of them? What are you going to do? Are you going to look out for you or are you going to look out for them? And this can play out by trying to sell them a bunch of crap they don't need, or this can play out by simply avoiding the task at hand, finding out the bigger problem and simply putting the quick fix on it and getting out of their life and never really giving them the true service that they deserve. That's what it's like to be on the Fresh Force. What do you got to do to be on the Fresh Force? Nothing. Just have this in your heart, have this in your mindset, and just take this mantra on and tell the world that you're going to be different. Show the world that you're going to be different. This show right here, what we're talking about tonight, is part of the way we do that, knowing where we're going, being effective leaders, whether it be in the home as an expert leading to a sale or a service that we're going to provide, whether it be to the way that we run our business, whether it be to the way that we run our family, whether it be to the way that we run our lives in general. Sometimes I do well in this area. Sometimes I fail in this area. And we can learn from that. We can learn from that. Here's the big thing, though, that typically happens when we don't have this thing kind of logged in place. We don't know where we're going. We don't work it backwards. So we don't see the path to progression. We don't see the path to victory. We don't run the practice play. We don't have the successful examples. And then what happens is we end up with point 3 and we fail miserably here, which is stay the course. You have to stay the course. Now, look, talking about staying the course, I have a mentor. I have someone in my life. They speak into my life. Here's the thing. If you need something like that, if you don't have someone that has experience, someone who knows what they're talking about, that speaks into your life, you need to get someone like that into your life right now. And that's something that we offer. Go to our website, theplumbingsalescoach.com. We'll offer this service to you. Obviously, we do this for a financial gain in our business, but we do it so that you can have a financial gain in your business. Just reach out to us and we will help you. You can either message us on Messenger or you can go to our website. But either way, we will take care of you. www.theplumbingsalescoach.com. For those that are new to the show or new to this brand, go to our podcast. You can Google us, the Plumbing Sales Coach Podcast. Actually, if you just type in plumbing sales on Google, we'll pop up everywhere. I think we're the #1 rated plumbing sales podcast on Apple and a few others. And we're the #2 rated business podcast out there, I think, for plumbing. And so, yeah, a lot of people check us out on there. Go check us out on there. If you're on there listening to us right now, what up? What up, what up, what up? That'll make sense to somebody later. All right, so look, we're talking about this idea of staying the course. Okay, it's so important. Now, I want to make a couple things very clear. What I don't mean is you can't change your goals. I'm not saying that you can't modify your goals. I'm not saying that you can't alter the course. I'm just saying that when you do, you need to stop and go back to step 1 and revisualize where you're going, work it backwards, and then head on that course. But you stay the course that you're on. You don't get scared. You don't freak out. You don't allow COVID to come in and go, okay, I'm selling my plumbing business. I'm going to do this now. Or no, you find a way to succeed. Look, here's the thing. I just read an article the other day. They're talking about the round 2 of basically the shutdown coming, where this winter they're talking about shutting things down again, and they're talking about how businesses are better prepared now that they've already been through it. Look, you got some businesses that figured out a way to survive. You got some businesses, and I get it. I get it. Your hands were tied in some of these cases. But every business in every industry had winners and losers. By the way, that's not just COVID. That's life. That's life. We live in a world where other humans can affect the rules in which we navigate. Other humans can affect the environment in which we operate. The system in which we e-commerce, those things can be changed overnight. Those things are changed overnight. Those things have been changed overnight. And you can either decide to quit and give in, or you can accept the fact that things change all the time and you got to move with it. We talked about, go back to my podcast, 2019. 2019, we talked about 2020 being the year of service. I had no clue that something like COVID would come, but I knew something would happen in life. I knew things would happen. I knew we were getting to a pressure cooker situation where people were getting tired of bad service. Now we're at a place where people are demanding good service. They have choices again. People aren't so quick to just blow their money. They don't have as much disposable income. Not everyone does. People are a little more picky. They want a little more information before they make the purchase. For me, this doesn't hurt me. This helps me. It does. When we run plumbing calls, and I still do, I just sold 2 toilets yesterday over the phone, and we ran a call today. Our team ran the call today. I didn't actually run that one. I was kind of busy with these coaching calls and stuff, but here's the bottom line. People are still making purchases. We're still selling and serving the same way. We haven't modified our pricing. We haven't done anything different. We haven't freaked out. We haven't done the COVID-19 special, 19%. We haven't done anything like that. We just been doing what we do. And what happened is that we were prepared for this. We already educate and inform. We already explain to people what they're getting. We already show people the value stack. We already show people the deal. We already stack off the first option to option 2 to option 3. We build upon that just like every other industry does that's successful. And we've been doing that since probably 2015 in the plumbing industry, 14 in the plumbing industry is when I really got into the plumbing industry and started implementing this. But been doing this since I was a kid. But honestly, the first time I value stacked was at AOL. I think the first time I did it financially for money was at American Online, getting people to stay, give them a free month, teach them a couple keywords, how to use the service a little bit better, give them a reason to stay around, and then they would fall in love with the product and it would work itself out. And I made a lot of money doing that for 3 short months because I hated it. But whatever, life is life. Then I went into construction, and here we are because I was a genius. It is what it is, right? We all fall into this world of construction, plumbing, these things, and it same for me, same for you, and here we are. But this has worked from the day of time, like the beginning of time. People have always wanted a deal. People have always wanted a deal. Everybody just wants to get a good bang for their buck. That's the reality. Like, it's not always about cheaper, but it is about value. And how you building that value and how you doing that. And that really matters to a customer. So you need to know where you're going. You need to know that you can get there. And then you got to stay that course, because if you don't, you're going to end up in the weeds. You're going to end up off track. You're going to end up somewhere you don't want to be, doing something you don't want to do for someone you don't even like. And you're going to be like, what? How did I get here? I don't even know how I got here because I wasn't sure where I was going and I just kept making turns. Some people go in circles. Some people go nowhere. Look, this is the reality of life. I want to make sure that you guys apply this stuff. Please apply this stuff. I'm telling you, sit down with your spouse, sit down with your business partners, sit down with your mentors, sit down with the people, the advisors of your life. The counselors, as the scriptures would say, the counselors of your life. A wise person has many counselors, is what it says. Wise person has many counselors. Okay, the counselors of your life, let them counselors speak into this. Help you refine and define exactly where you're going. Make sure that you have a road to get there. Make sure that they made some roads and some vehicles that will get you there. And then stay the course. Believe in what you're doing. Believe in where you're going. Have the right mindset. And I promise you, your year will be successful. You may not end up exactly where you want to go. You may not end up exactly where you wanted to get. But I promise you this, you'll be further down the road. You'll be a lot closer, if not there. And some of you might even have to reassess your goal early because you already passed it. I love you. And as always, remember, serve your communities and everything, not just plumbing. Have a great day, everyone.
Fresh.